IT convergence. Okay. I'm going to start from the beginning so we can catch all of that. So Dr. Ayana is the project lead for the Global South AI for Pandemic and Epidemic Preparedness Network Ethiopia Hub. He holds a PhD in Medical IT Convergence Engineering from Kumo National Institute of Technology and focuses his research on AI for health, disease surveillance, and global AI governance. Dr. Ayana has received numerous awards and honors for his scientific and academic excellence, including a recognition as a Rising Star Scientist by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Outstanding Academic Achievement Award from the Korean Ministry of Education, and the American Association for Cancer Research Sanofi Scholar in Training Award. He drives impactful research, securing grants such as the Grand Challenges Ethiopia Health Innovation Seed Grant, and contributing to initiatives like AI4PEP. With that, I will now forward to Dr. Ayana. Thank you, Dr. Ayana.
Thank you, Mahak, for the kind introduction. And it's not that much. Mahak prepared and introduced me more than I am. I'm just an enthusiastic person who wants to learn more about AI and global health. And I'm happy to see students, and when the opportunity came for me to give a lecture to students, I really welcomed it from the bottom of my heart, because I'm really happy to see students from the global south empowered when it comes to AI and global health. So today is not just a lecture. I want to make a call to action for every student here to take on a journey of decolonizing AI and using the opportunity we have with AI technology to solve our problems, our community's problems, and global problems. So with that, I will share a short slide that I prepared, and I hope you guys will enjoy and join me in decolonizing AI. Let me share my slides, if you allow me. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you once again. So today I will talk about rethinking AI governance decolonization in sub-Saharan Africa. It's general, but I want to focus on sub-Saharan Africa because we did a preliminary study in sub-Saharan Africa. So the outline of my presentation will be shortly, as you can see in the slide. I will give some background definition of decolonization, and then delve into how decolonization of AI governance is done, and how it evolved, and also ways to decolonize AI governance in sub-Saharan Africa, and what, as students here, you should do to join this journey of decolonizing AI. So let's delve into the presentation. Okay, so when we say decolonization, it's not like a single entity that is defined with short terms. It's a multifaceted and complex process that involves dismantling colonial structures, ideologies, and systems of oppression imposed by colonial powers on indigenous peoples and nations. And when we talk about decolonization, we have to go into different aspects of society, such as social, political, economic, and cultural aspects. And to understand decolonization, we have to break it down into some terms by considering historical evolution and theories that were drafted and also brought forward by some good thinkers, and also the ongoing implications of the world. We have to see those things. So the concept of decolonization emerged in 20th century following the independence of many nations in Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific from the European imperialism. And then this concept of decolonization was intensified after World War II, where anti-colonial movements and nationalist fervors and international pressures of self-determination also grew. And then this led to independence of many countries, the notable ones being India, gaining independence in 1947, and then most of African nations gaining independence in 1950s and 60s. However, decolonization, as I've told you earlier, is not only about the political freedom, political liberation. It entails many things. It needs addressing legacies of colonialism that we still today feeling as a burden in our in different countries and also in our regions, including social inequalities, economic dependencies, and cultural impositions, which continued still today. So, yeah, with this we can have. I hope you guys have like a little bit of introduction of what decolonization, what we mean by the word decolonization. And there were many theories of decolonization, how decolonization should be, what decolonization should be. And three of them are the major decolonization theories when we talk about decolonization. The first one is the Fanonian theory, which is inspired by Frantz Fanon, as you can see on the bottom right picture, the black guy. He's a French philosopher. He emphasizes on psychological, cultural, and existential dimensions of decolonization. In short, he says true liberation requires not only the political sovereignty, which is like the idea that I raised before, but also decolonization of the mind and the construction of new independent identities. This is very at the core of decolonization because many people, many nations, many communities, after gaining independence, they didn't know which way to take. They couldn't go back to their original identity because it has already been dismantled, and they couldn't take over the imperialist ideology. So it is Fanonian theory is one of the basic definition and the theories frameworks of decolonization. And the other one is post-colonial theory of decolonization. It emerges in the late 20th century, and notable scholars in this area are Edward Said, Professor Pipak, and also Baba. These thinkers they came up with a theory which focuses on the power dynamics, cultural hegemony, and also epistemological implications of colonialism that needs to be distracted from the European ideology. It highlights that even though countries have been independent now, the ongoing effects of colonialism is shaping the world. Yeah, we have seen this, like especially in economics. Many countries, they are politically free in Africa, but their economy is still under French for many like Western African countries. So these scholars, they bring forward the idea that we have to critically reevaluate our history, knowledge production, and the social justice that followed the colonization. And the third one that really speaks to the sub-Saharan Africa is indigenous theories. This is rooted into the experiences and struggle of indigenous people across the world, and it emphasizes on restoration of indigenous sovereignty, land rights, and self-governance. This has been seen mostly in South African cases in Africa and other countries. And also these challenges settler colonialism, environmental degradation, and the cultural erasure, advocating for indigenous resurgence and revitalization of traditional knowledge and the system. Because many countries couldn't do that. Even though they gained independence, they couldn't have their own color. They couldn't have their own indigenous systems and structures and way of thinking to be established in their sole establishment. So these three theories are main theories of decolonization. So when we think of decolonization, I think any thought that we may have will fall into three of these major thoughts by these good people that has been suggested. So today we are going to talk about governance of AI and how decolonization how it should be decolonized. So I thought we could also talk about decolonization of science and technology, because colonization didn't come only with the political power, as I've told you. It came also with colonizing the way we perceive the access we have to science and technology. So we have to, I wanted you to have also how we should define decolonization of science and technology. It refers to dismantle colonial hierarchies, biases, and exclusions within science and technology domains, recognizing and valuing diverse knowledge systems, perspectives, and methodologies. It involves re-examining and reconfiguring scientific technology practices to more inclusive, sensitive, and responsive, which is tied to the needs and aspirations of the marginalized communities, the colonized communities, particularly to those disproportionately affected by colonialism and imperialism. This is not only about the nations, this is also about the segment of a society within a given country. You know, during colonization, this segment has been widened. For example, there was in many countries, cultures, there was discrimination against women, against girls, but this widens as the colonialism came also. So decolonization of science and technology is all about decolonizing research methodologies, curriculum development, intellectual property rights, institutional structures to foster greater diversity, equity, and inclusion in science and technology. As many of you know, it is in many countries, it is recent that it is allowed for women to study in universities also, okay? So decolonization of science and technology also takes those segments, not only the political stuff. So three major strategies and the theoretical frameworks come into this decolonization of science and technology, as in that of also the political decolonization. The first one is post-colonial. This is the same as the post-colonial of the political decolonization. It centers on epistemic pluralism, you know, recognizing multiple ways of knowing and being that have been marginalized by colonialism. For example, the way we define our history, it was defined for us by other writers. You know, all of these should have been changed. And the post-colonial theory of science and technology advocates for that. And also there came indigenous and feminist approach or theories centered on indigenous and women's voices and perspectives and knowledge system within the scientific and technological discourses. You know, I like one example, you know, where someone, like, I think she's German, she was talking about anatomy book, and she's a medical teacher, like student. And she said, I didn't read any anatomy book that is written in feminism. And so these are rooted in the systems. And also many other things such as color, racial, dismantling, segregation exists within the society that are superimposed by the colonial structure. So the indigenous and feminist theory highlight the interconnectedness of social, cultural, and ecological concerns and advocate for participatory, community-led approach to research and innovation. And then comes with very critical theory, which we call critical race theory. This is actually what shaped the way we think decolonization in this 21st century. The famous thinker about this school of thought is Kimberly Crenshaw. She's an American professor. She focused her theory on race, ethnicity, and colonialism intersect with scientific and methodological practices. And these have resulted in changing of many policies and many strategies that were superimposed due to the colonial system. Even though it wasn't imposed directly, indirectly, it is within the system. So those decolonization frameworks exist in science and technology also. With that, I want to talk about how decolonization evolved with technology governance in each industrial revolution. We have witnessed 4 industrial revolutions in our history, and how where was the concept of decolonization in those eras? So the first industrial revolution, which was from late 18th century to early 19th century, the core revolution was about mechanization, steam power, and mass production. And the colonizers used these techs, mechanization, steam power, and mass production, to exploit resources and the labors in the colonized countries, the societies, the land, the resources in the colonized countries. And at this time, there was no decolonization concept because everything was controlled by these colonizers. And then in the second industrial revolution time, which is in late 19th century to early 20th century, it was all about electricity, telecommunication, and transportation. And the modern infrastructure and the globalization came to being. And at this time, the colonizers expanded their control and continue exploiting the resources, the labors, and the country and the nation and the community. But even during this time, decolonization started to emerge during the second industrial revolution due to many reasons, especially these movements were supported by the movements within even the colonizer countries. And then we come to the third industrial revolution, which takes place during late 20th century to early 21st century. This is the era of digital revolution, where computers and internet became the major thing. Here, technology that revolutionized the world started challenging these colonial powers and also supporting the colonized nations. So this resulted into decolonization gaining more traction across the globe, especially in the Africa, in Asia, Caribbean, and also even within US. And then this resulted into independence of many countries. This is the era of the Industrial Revolution, where many countries gained independence and also take governance, started to open to countries which were already colonized. For example, if we take during those time, Ethiopia was also considered as one of the countries who have a say in governance of technology across the globe. And then comes the fourth industrial revolution, which is the present one. It is our era, our age, where AI, robotics, biotechnology, IoT, Internet of Things is the major innovation and driving the world. Here, the colonization changes its form and it became into digital colonization. That is what I am going to talk about today, how we are digitally colonized as sub-Saharan African countries and how we are not doing anything. You know, our forefathers, they fought for their independence in front of these huge and powerful colonizers. But in our era, we are not doing anything in solving the equation of digital colonization. So in this era, decolonization emphasizes on digital sovereignty, which most of the sub-Saharan African countries don't even consider having, and the data governance, which is controlled by maybe a few conglomerates and big corporates, and then having inclusive technological innovation that respects culture, diversity, indigenous rights, and ethical consideration. These are the things or the ideas that decolonization of digital technology revolves around in our era. So what is decolonization of AI governance? So governance is to rule, to regulate, and also to stewardship something, right? That's what we call governance. So what do we call, what is the AI governance and what is decolonization? That is what I wanted to talk in this slide. Decolonization of AI governance refers to critical examination, restructuring, and transformation of policies, practices, and structures governing AI development. These are very critical when it comes to AI development, deployment, and regulation. With the aim of challenging, we have to also remind ourselves of the colonial structures, legacies, addressing systematic biases, centering diverse voices, perspectives, and values in decision-making process. So it is full of words, very important, technical, and also which are legal content in it when we talk about decolonization of AI governance. So it involves all these things, and we have to look as, you know, like as students who are enthusiastic about AI and as students in the global south with limited resource and also limited decision-making power, we have to consider those things. So decolonization of AI governance involves recognizing and redressing the historical and ongoing impacts of colonialism, imperialism, and cultural hegemony on AI technologies and their governance framework while promoting principles of equity, justice, accountability, and respect for human in AI research, development, and deployment. Please, like, check carefully the words development, deployment, and also regulation. These are very important when it comes to AI. So, what are the how did it evolve? This decolonization of AI governance, how did it evolve across the world? AI is not a new thing, you know, like it has been here for centuries. However, utilizing AI in our daily life, that is a new thing. And also, there is also a hype to it. So initially, people thought of decolonization of AI governance only in terms of technical standards, regulatory frameworks, and also industry-based practices. You know, like in such a way, when new products comes into the market, you will talk about some technical standards, some regulatory framework, and also some industry practices. Initially, with the people and also stakeholders thought of decolonization of AI governance from these perspectives only. But as it progresses, it starts impacting other parts of life, such as social, ethical implications of AI systems, including algorithm bias, discriminatory outcomes, and unequal access to AI-driven systems, which became apparent as it is utilization in our everyday life comes true. Like I can give many examples when it comes to this. For example, the first, I don't know if you guys are aware of the big image data in the world, which is called ImageNet data. It was composed of only like a limited ethnicity and the color image. And it was biased against other segments of the society and the community and also the globe. And then that was a reason for it to be erased for a limited time. And then after that, those people who worked on the data set and brought about an improved data set for ImageNet that we are using today. And then it didn't stop there. It emerged where it became a critical for scholarship and social justice movements, such as data feminism, such as algorithms of oppression by, you know, like Safia Noble. She's really a famous thinker in this area, and Race After Technology by Benjamin. So these things, these scholars, this school of thought brought about a new perspective on decolonization of governance and really made us and forced us to see decolonization of AI governance from different perspectives, such as gender, race, and socioeconomic status, equity, diversity, and inclusion, recognition and empowerment of marginalized communities, and indigenous approach. However, we don't stop there. when we talk about decolonization of AI governance, there are many cases that we can consider. And there are a lot to decolonize when it comes to AI governance. But yeah, let me stop here about the evolution of AI governance and where it goes in the future. So, and let me talk about the sub-Saharan African case. That is our focus of discussion today. Sub-Saharan African countries, as you know, as I have said earlier, I focused on Sub-Saharan African countries because we did a preliminary study last December, December 2023, and we saw some results by selecting 10 Sub-Saharan African countries in terms of some criteria that we developed. That's why I am talking about Sub-Saharan Africa. But this is inclusive. When I talk about Sub-Saharan Africa, maybe the Caribbeans can relate to this, Asians can relate to this, and the Middle East and also North African countries can also relate to this. So just let's see at the overview of Sub-Saharan Africa. I want to see it from these three perspectives. There are significant challenges that persist, including data bias, limited technical capacity, and also dominance of the global North nations and tech companies, which perpetuate inequalities and stifle local innovation in AI governance and also in decolonizing AI governance in Sub-Saharan Africa. The disparity in access to AI technologies between Sub-Saharan African countries and the developed global North also exacerbates this challenge. Let's take three examples. For example, you may know when ChatGPT was released by OpenAI for the first time to the world. I was doing my PhD at that time in 2022, and I was enjoying ChatGPT. But my colleagues in Ethiopia, they don't even know what ChatGPT was in 2022. Even in 2023, Ethiopia didn't have access to ChatGPT. Such barriers exist in Sub-Saharan Africa. So there is a limited capacity, and there is also a barrier of entrance in having your hand on technology still in our age. Think of that. This is like 2024, and we don't still have equal access to technology, equal access to platforms, equal access to learning tools, equal access to tools that will simplify our life and that are freely available in other parts of the world. And if I take my own research example, I did my PhD in breast cancer diagnosis area, and I know some products that are out there that are being used in medical equipments that are used to diagnose breast cancer. For example, there are big companies, American companies, just as Paz AI and GE, which manufacture equipments and also software tools for breast cancer diagnosis. All of their technologies, they don't have African data. For example, if you take radiology image of breast, there are many scientific justifications, even that are done by Americans, that say there is difference when we see image of breast of white and a woman, black woman, and AI is biased because of only this, because of the color or because of the gene makeup. And these technologies that are being made by GE and Paz AI, they are being used in Ethiopia, they are being used in South Africa, but they are not trained, they are not developed, they are not deployed on African data. And such gaps are still exist. Such gaps are still there, even here in 2024, data bias. And then when we come to the power of decision making, the power of influencing policies, the power of leading the direction of development of technologies, we can take as a good example the UN AI Advisory Board. It was established, establishing in 2022 and finalized in December 2023. This body of UN AI Advisory it has 37 members. And out of 37 members, you can go and check the list. Only 4 are of color, like Black people. And out of them, for example, I personally know Ababa Burhani. She is not affiliated to Africa. She is basically from Ethiopia, but she works in UK and she resides in UK and she works with other company, Mozilla. And James Menyika, he works with Google, and there is nothing that relates him to Africa. And 2 people that are only slightly related to Africa, they don't even, like one of them, for example, Professor Seydina is from Senegal. He's a professor in the university. And then the other one is Tego. He's from Kenya and he's an advisor to the government. He is the only person who is really positioned into making impact for UN AI governance, and also bringing insight of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa to this. You know how big is sub-Saharan Africa. You know how many people reside and how many diversity exists. But even to the fair UN, like we consider UN as a fair and inclusive organization, there is, I don't know the reason. Maybe I don't say like they intentionally did it, or maybe they found insights from Africa, for example, from government of Ethiopia, not useful for leading UN AI advisory. I don't know the reason, but such systematic, whether it is intentionally or non-intentionally, are being still done in 2024. And the students should be aware of such things today. And those are like the overview of what is happening in sub-Saharan Africa. And these are like, you know, like going into the ocean and picking a water with your hand. So this can be, this is exacerbated with the lack of decision making and influencing organizations. You know, Africa as a whole doesn't still have an organization or a body that influences policy, that influences the guidance, the regulation, the governance of AI, which further compounds this challenge and underscoring the need for AI governance decolonization in the region. So this led me, you know, really to do some assessment on the status of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, by taking some examples and where we can collect some real-time data that from people on the ground, from people who are making policy, from people who are influencing such things. We managed to do some study, and today I will talk about that. So we did evaluate the status of the state of decolonization in sub-Saharan Africa by taking 10 sub-Saharan countries. 5 of them are from AI4PEP. AI4PEP is a pandemic and preparedness network in global south, and we have 5 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, which includes Cameroon, Ethiopia, Ghana, Senegal, and South Africa. And also there was a report by, I think from Cambridge, Government AI Readiness Index, which sit down, check every material available, every regulations available, and then determine the readiness index for each country. Depending on this index in 2022, because that was the report that exists when we do the research in December 2023, Kenya, Mauritius, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Seychelles were like the top 5 countries. So we picked those top 5 countries, and we picked 5 countries from AI4PEP and do this assessment by using 5 indicators. The first one being the country have an institution to guide AI governance. And the second indicator is if the country have a national AI governance strategy. And the third one is sovereignty a priority in the country's AI governance strategy? Does the country have a data protection regulation? And the fifth and a very important one, where I can say almost 100% of sub-Saharan African land, does the country necessitate or oblige the use of local data for AI tools used in the country. For example, it is the same as like the GE and PAS AI breast cancer diagnosis case. They are marketed in Ethiopia, but Ethiopian don't care where it came from and doesn't also necessitate to use Ethiopian data to train that system so that it will be applied on the real scenario of Ethiopian breast. So we used these 5 indicators to study these 10 countries, and the assessment was broken down into 5 values between 0 and 1. And then depending on those values, we categorize the country as decolonization resistant, which is the country accepts AI governance colonization and doesn't do anything. And decolonization blind, the country ignores AI decolonization governance and again, do not do anything. And then decolonization aware countries. These are countries that acknowledge AI governance decolonization, but they don't do anything and they don't move towards achieving that. And then decolonization responsive countries. These countries acknowledge and consider decolonization for their specific needs. At least they include in their some strategy of AI governance. And then lastly, decolonization transformative countries, which address the causes of decolonization and work to transform AI governance decolonization. So depending on these 5 categorization, what we found by analyzing those 5 countries was not that much promising. 80% of the countries are decolonization aware. Decolonization aware means they acknowledge that AI governance should be decolonized, but from their own perspective, they don't do anything. Those are 80% of countries. That means 8 out of the 10 countries fall in this area. And 1 country is categorized as decolonization blind. And then 1 country is categorized as decolonization responsive. So Rwanda is the only country that is doing great in 2023. We have to do this every year because it changes. Many countries now have regulations, strategies, and also they have established bodies. But in 2023, Rwanda was the best among these 10 countries evaluated. So this this was the states when we evaluate sub-Saharan Africa. So we provided some insights and recommendations. So we categorized our recommendations into 7 recommendations. The first one is countries should involve diverse stakeholders. So many of the countries, they are only based on telecommunication, ICT, or digitalization ministry. You cannot decolonize AI by focusing only on those sectors. We have to include education. We have to include law. We have to include, the lawmaking, law enforcing agency. And also we have to include the social, the social aspects of the sectors in AI governance. Without that, we cannot achieve like a win-win situation for every situation when it comes to AI governance in specific countries. The second one is to challenge even our status quo. So like most of the countries, they fall into that. They acknowledge that there is a systematic colonization that comes with AI, and they support the colonization of AI, but they are not working anything. This status quo should be challenged, and governments should work towards this. And every sector in the country should also work towards this, changing this status quo. I think few countries in Africa are showing really promising change in the status quo that I have observed, compared to in 2023. And then we have to also promote ethical AI. This is general stuff that we all know when it comes to data protection. Many countries have this, at least written data protection regulation, and also support local innovation. This is very important. I think Kenya is doing great in terms of this, and Rwanda also doing great, South Africa. but other countries are lacking behind in supporting local innovation. They don't have funds for local innovation. They don't have the regulations. They don't have the law. They don't have the policy to support local innovation that comes from AI. And then the most important thing is we need to build regional partnership. Recently, last month, European Union, they went miles away from us by establishing a system, a strategy that will guide AI and that will harmonize the development of innovation that comes out of AI and also governing AI. And Africa, sub-Saharan Africa specifically, we are miles away from them. So this needs to build regional partnership. AU should do a lot in this. At least we need to have the same pace as we have for climate change, as we have for environmental change. And then we need to build, which is very important, build the capacity. Capacity can be built in many ways, but the most important thing is capacity that we build in individuals. When individuals are empowered and capacitated, the whole nation will be capacitated. And many countries are not working on literacy of AI. And this should be a major focus area for many countries to work on when it comes to decolonizing AI governance. And then lastly, promoting public awareness about data protection, how to share our data for the public, and how important is data, even to develop some of the most important tools that will solve the community problems. And those awareness are really important. So these are the 7 basic recommendations that we gave during our out of our study in 2023. But today I want to focus on building capacity. You know, building capacity, very the key thing. And as students here, I think that is also your area, or should be your area of focus. At least you have to capacitate yourself. At least you have to build yourself. You have to empower yourself by taking the AI governance decolonization into your mind, into your daily work, into your studies, and also into your research. So with that, I want to give some perspective by looking back into history. You know, always knowledge and wisdom comes from inside, you know. And history also tells us when we did something great to solve problems, we looked into ourselves to come up with a solution. And today, I want to give you a little bit of insight that we did it before, you know, not AI decolonization, AI governance decolonization is not something impossible. We did it before. We did something amazing before, which needs more energy, more capacity, more work than AI decolonization. If we take Ethiopia history, we can learn from Ethiopian history. In ancient times, for example, there was Aksum civilization, which is like 3,000 years ago, where the global north countries that we know today don't have that much civilization. We Ethiopians have civilizations that was a center for the world, for the globe, and where many creations, where many innovations related to construction, related to economy, related to trade came. And Aksum was a center for Roman Empire, India, and Africa. And we did that. What we need is go back and learn from that. That is, as a student, what you should do. And even in the Middle Age, like I'm still taking Ethiopian example because we are talking about governance, you know. In Ethiopia, in the 16th century, before the Americans get to know democracy, we Ethiopians were governing ourselves in a democratic way, where power is transferred peacefully every 8 years. And every segment of the society is treated well, even including women. All right? The thing is, we can also do this history in AI when it comes to AI. Just a little bit of looking inside out, going back to our history, what we did, and learning from that, and devising a way how we can fine-tune those achievements, those histories, those knowledge, those wisdoms to our today's problems. And even in modern age, our fathers, they helped each other even during the colonization that I am talking today. For example, if you take the first left picture, this is Nelson Mandela Madiba with General Taddese, Ethiopian general. Madiba came to Ethiopia and took training with his colleagues to fight against the apartheid. That way we were helping each other. And here you can see our forefathers like Kwame Nkrumah in 1963, when they came together to establish the Organization for African Unity in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. This led to independence of many African countries, forcing colonial powers, imperialists, to give their hands to Africans and for many Africans to gain independence. This has been done by our forefathers. And it is our era. It is the responsibility of students here in the Global South today to do also decolonization of AI. We cannot be a crybaby that sits down and cry about the systematic colonization of AI across the globe by the large conglomerates, corporates. We have to do something. We can do something. Just look into our history, look into our upbringing, look into the wisdom that we gained, that we inherited from our forefathers, and look into the things that we can do. That is my message for students here. We have to learn from our history and go back to our ancient source and indigenous knowledge to come up with something meaningful to do decolonization. So today, I want to finalize my presentation by presenting a call to action to my fellow students to decolonize AI and to become AI decolonizers for your respective countries, and to join us on this journey of decolonizing AI governance as a student. You know, if African, at least I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa, maybe 40 something countries come together, students, 10 students come together and do something with a high novelty, a high knowledge to enforce policy, to enforce other part of the world. We can do something. We can come up with a solution to decolonize AI. We can make AI equitable. We can make AI responsible for everybody across the globe without any discrimination and without any structural colonialism or digital colonialism. For that, all we have to do is to do Harambe. Harambe is a Swahili. If Kenyans are here, you may help me. It's a Swahili word which is to pull everything together to solve a problem. In ancient time, Kenyans used this tradition to do self-help events for fundraising and also development activities. We can bring this knowledge into AI decolonization today to do decolonization of AI and also to have a say in the global AI governance, where we are sitting idle now as sub-Saharan African countries, and where we are only being a crying baby, which is waiting for its mom or dad to take care of and also to put it into sleep or to feed it. No, we don't have to be like that. We can do something as students, as innovators, as researchers, and also as people who really have a heart for our nations and also for our continent. So that is my message. And I want to invite you to join me listening to this Harambe song that I really like, and to meditate on this message that I delivered today to decolonize AI. And we will come back and I will share, if you want to join this decolonization journey, a link where we can work together as global South countries to do AI globalization. let me share my slide again. Okay, share with sound. All right, so enjoy this 2 minutes video while meditating on what I said today. And please read the lyrics in English. It also exists in English.
Harambe, harambe, tuimbe pamoja. Harambe, harambe, tuimbe pamoja. Harambe, harambe, tuimbe pamoja. Tujenge serikali. Wengi walisema Kenya itakuwa matata. Wengi walisema Kenya itakuwa matata. Wengi walisema Kenya itakuwa matata. Watu wote wastaarabu. Wananchi harambe, tuvute pamoja. Wananchi harambe, tuvute pamoja. Wananchi harambe, tuvute pamoja. Muongoze na usalama. Watu wa Kenya hatuna ubaguzi. Watu wa Kenya hatuna ubaguzi. Watu wa Kenya hatuna ubaguzi. Kila rangi tunaipenda.
I'll stop it here and I will go back to my slide. Can you see my slide again?
Yes.
All right. So as it says in the video that you have seen, it's about Kenya, but it talks to everyone here. Many said global south will be vicious, but it will be civilized and it will be equal as in the global north. And all of this is possible if we can do something today. So as students, you guys have to do something and also join this call of action towards decolonizing AI in your respective country. So if you wanna join this journey where we will at least publish once a year about the status of decolonization in each country, in our respective country, and where we can share it to the world, the voice of Global South students, you can join with this link I share within the chat group and join us on this journey of decolonizing AI. That is my message. Thank you for your time. I talked a lot and it was a long time. I hope you understand that and you share my vision of decolonizing AI governance in sub-Saharan Africa as well as in the global south. Back to you, Mahak. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Gelan. This was a highly relevant lecture. I'm going to jump right into the questions we have in the chat. And by the way, if anybody would prefer to ask the question verbally, please just raise your hand and I'll get to you shortly. So I think Priscilla is asking, does sub-Saharan Africa need to design and train its own AI system to be decolonized?
It's we cannot say, yeah, you can hear me, right? Yeah,
Yes.
we cannot say we have to design our own system, you know, because the technology, AI, the technology we use it's a global creation. What I'm saying within this lecture is it needs everyone's touch. It needs everyone's involvement in the creation, in the process. And I gave you some examples, insights from my experience in the slides, where these technologies that are being used by us, but it doesn't have our background data with which it is trained. So as a policy also, and also as a strategy, what we should focus on is try to include every voice, not only sub-Saharan African. We can learn from Caribbean, we can learn from Asia, we can learn from UK, we can learn from Canada, all right? So we need to have a touch of everything. It is not like from top-down system. It should be, you know, scattered everywhere, and that should be our strategy for Africans. And that is beneficial for us also for sub-Saharan Africans, if that answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question we have is from Faranel. They're asking, what's holding back Africans from an AI revolution?
Yeah. As I tried to like include in my slides, there are many things that are systematic dragging African countries for economic is one of the main challenge, you know, like access to facility infrastructure. What these are like some of the challenges. But for me, what I believe in is it's us dragging ourselves behind. We have to be like I was saying again and again, a crying baby. You know, we don't have to be a crying baby every time. As we fight for our sharing equity within the AI system, within the global governance, we need to come with something novel by looking into ourselves, you know, the Harambe way, or like the Gada system, or the Aksum civilization, or through the like Pan-African system. We have to look into our inside and come up with a solution that no one will deny what we deserve. All right? That should be the approach, I think. Because many countries are not investing in AI. For example, I can take Ethiopia. Government doesn't invest in AI. Without that, nothing can be done. But as individual, we cannot sit because the government is not investing. I have to push my government. I have to push my policymakers. I have to push my people to do so. And this is why I'm here, to push students like that.
Gotcha. So we need to advocate for ourselves. Perfect. So the next question I have is from Dagny. They're asking, what are the ongoing efforts to improve these barriers?
Yes, I included those 5 indicators. I think those are the main areas of work that many countries are working. First, establishing the regulations, you know, like governance. When we talk about governance, we have to, with AI, data is the most important thing. And the way we collect data should be regulated. You know, we cannot have anyone's data. For example, in the case of Ethiopian telecommunication, now they have a strong data regulation, like that came last year. And people are working on those regulations in many countries, in many African sub-Saharan countries. And I think, yeah, that's the correct place to start from. But we have to also work on the infrastructure. We have to work also on the capacity building. And many countries are not working on that. That is my concern. You know, like even as a region, we don't have like big organization that fund, that that lead ideas. So I think that those are the areas, the 5 indicators that I listed where many countries are working on.
Rahel mentioned sharing the link for the registration. It's in the chat, and I'll also send it to everybody after the lecture. Dr. Pearl shared a similar sentiment of Harambe as Bayanihan. That's lovely. Thank you, Dr. Pearl.
Thank you.
The next one we have from, oh, I agree with you, Derek. I loved the song at the end. Dr. Hannah is asking, do you share my opinion that the AI revolution and the operational application of AI strategies are hindered by the lack of digitization and data storage, which is due to government corruption?
For now, when it comes to data stuff, corruption is not yet there for Africa. Like I was curious about this and tried to look into that. Government doesn't have even info, like doesn't have the understanding how valuable data that they have. For example, I'm working with Ministry of Health and Ethiopian Public Health Institute. They don't have storage of their data. They don't
Yes,
have.
I agree. Yes, in Tunisia too.
Yeah, so like there is not a time for us to talk about the corruption on data in sub-Saharan Africa, because where we are is we have to encourage them to give attention for data that they have, the data that, because we have seen COVID-19. We were completely dependent on like global North data for Ethiopian case. So we are not yet there about corruption, but in terms of infrastructure, for example, the government budgets for AI infrastructure, telecommunication technology infrastructure, there is corruption there. Right? It's obvious, but when it comes to data sharing and data regulation and also governance of AI, we are not still there to talk about corruption. That's my opinion.
And we have one more question from Priscilla again. Is the lack of a policy regulation the reason for sub-Saharan African data, or Africa as a whole, being sidelined?
Oh, many people, many scholars bring out this question. Me too, like on many conferences and many presentation, people ask me about those things. There is not something that fits all things, but we can take it as one point. When we talk about governance, if we don't at least have regulation for that country on the data, on the innovations, on the technology, on the digital tool, like how can we talk about other things of governance? So one of the metrics when you measure the readiness or how countries are working towards decolonizing AI governance should be regulation. We have to start from that. If a country doesn't have a way to regulate its own AI governance, how can it have a say on UN AI governance, or like a global stage? We cannot talk about that. So it's like a starting point for us to, as a metric to evaluate, but it's not a whole thing.
Perfect. So we've reached the end of our questions. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions, everyone. If anyone has any last minute comments or questions, just type them in. In the meantime, I would love to ask everybody to please fill in our post-lecture survey. It really helps us get feedback and improve for the next series. And I'm just going to post the form shared by Dr. Gelan again. So please sign up for that as well. And if that is
I would like to thank Dr. Gelan too for his wonderful talk. Thank you so much for this. A little history updates, really, I enjoy it really. But I have a question that it was in my mind. Are you optimistic?
Absolutely, I'm always optimistic.
Short term or long term?
Long term. I believe in smaller actions, because there is not a country that is built in one night. I believe in dialogue. I believe in small steps, but I'm completely optimistic. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe together with this consortium, we can make something. So I'm happy to be with you in the same consortium. So I join Mahak to thank you all for being with us today. I don't know if someone else have some another question or comments.
I think we have one question maybe we can squeeze in from Francois. What is the specific advantage of IA? So I guess it's in French, AI. in English.
AI specific advantage. Yeah, it's a broad question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having nice pictures like you in the presentation.
Yeah, that might be an advantage. Yeah, but you know, when it comes to technology, it's really hard to, you know, exactly tell what the specific advantage is, because there is a disadvantage to that too. But for example, if I take my specific area of research, during my PhD, I did on breast cancer, and I had a reason for that, because do you know mammography? Mammography is a machine for screening breast cancer. You know, Ethiopia is a country of 120 million people, you know, like statistics says. And we have only, I don't know, like the 2024 data. In 2023, we have only 8 mammography working in Ethiopia for 120 million countries. And the number of radiologists is, it's like, I don't remember the specific number. It is like 1,000-fold when compared to like US or the standard. We are like 1,000 back from the number of the radiologists. AI can play in narrowing this gap, at least in that specific area. But in many areas, AI can play many roles. So I can give that one example as an example. And nowadays, AI is what we eat, you know, it's what we read, it is what we watch, and it is what we, I don't know, it's everything, you know, like what we breathe, AI is. So we cannot live without AI, as we cannot live without oxygen in the coming years. So yeah, I think that way.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you again, Dr. Gelan, for the amazing
Thank
lecture.
you, everybody.
Bye.
And I hope I will see you all again on different and other sessions.
Of course.
And
You
enjoy
were
your day.
amazing, Gelan.
Thank you. Thank
Really,
you.
congratulations for this. Really,
Thank
you know how to take our tensions.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Mahak.
Thanks, Dr. Ayana.